There is a sound that has echoed across the plains of this earth for 50 million years. It is not the roar of thunder, though thunder has often accompanied it. It is not the howl of wind, though wind has always been its companion. It is a sound of survival, of ancient wisdom, of a creature that learned long ago how to face the fury of the sky and live to tell the tale. It is the sound of hooves upon the earth, steady and sure, even as the heavens unleash their wrath. Honestly, making these videos takes a ton of work, but it's worth it because of this community. If you enjoyed hanging out with me today, drop a like to let me know. If you haven't already, subscribe so you don't lose track of this journey. And listen, if this made you laugh or think, send this to a friend who needs a pick-me-up today. The more, the merrier. Now close your eyes and imagine that sound. Feel the vibration of it through the ground beneath you. Listen to the rhythm, the steady, patient rhythm of hooves that have weathered more storms than any human could count. This is the story of how wild horses survive storms, a story written not in books, but in bone, in muscle, in instinct, in the very soul of a creature that has danced with the tempest since time immemorial. Let us begin this journey together, a quiet journey into the heart of the storm and into the heart of the horse. The first thing you must understand about wild horses and storms is that they are not adversaries. They are not enemies locked in an eternal battle. They are partners in an ancient dance that has been choreographed by evolution itself over 50 million years of trial and error, of adaptation and survival. This is a story that begins long before humans ever looked up at the sky and felt fear. It begins in the Eocene epoch, a time when the world was warmer, when the first horse-like creatures, tiny creatures no larger than a dog, roamed the forests of what would become North America. These early ancestors of the modern horse looked nothing like the magnificent creatures we see today. They had toes, not hooves. They ate soft leaves, not grass. And they had no idea that their descendants would one day face the most violent storms on Earth. But even then, even in those ancient forests, the seeds of survival were being planted. The instincts that would one day allow wild horses to survive tornadoes and hurricanes and blizzards were already beginning to form. We will travel through time together, exploring how these remarkable animals developed the strategies and adaptations that make them some of the most resilient creatures on this planet. We will look at the science behind their storm survival, at the physics and biology and behavior that allow them to endure what would destroy most other animals. And we will do it all in a way that is quiet and calm and peaceful, because this is not a story about chaos and destruction. This is a story about wisdom and patience. It is a story about trust, about herd bonds, about the deep, unshakable understanding that there are forces greater than ourselves, and that the only way to survive them is to accept them, to honor them, and to know when to stand still. To understand how wild horses survive storms, we must first understand what they are surviving. And so we begin with the storm itself. Picture it with me now. The sky, which was blue and calm just an hour ago, begins to change. The first sign is subtle, a slight darkening on the horizon, a faint purple hue that spreads slowly, almost imperceptibly. The wind, which had been gentle, begins to shift, becoming erratic, unpredictable, carrying with it the scent of rain from miles away. For a human watching from a safe distance, there is beauty in this moment, a terrible, powerful beauty. The clouds begin to build, great white towers of cumulus that rise higher and higher into the atmosphere, their tops flattening out into an anvil shape that signals the storm's true power. These clouds can reach heights of 60,000 feet, 10 times the height of Mount Everest's base. Inside them, the violence is unimaginable. Winds roar upward at speeds of over 100 miles per hour, carrying raindrops that are frozen into ice crystals at the top, that fall and rise and fall again until they become hailstones the size of golf balls or even softballs. Lightning crackles inside these clouds, millions of volts of electricity that heat the air to 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. Thunder is the sound of that superheated air expanding faster than the speed of sound, a crack and a boom that can be heard for miles. And the rain, when it finally comes not as drops but as sheets, as curtains, as walls of water that turn the world into a blur of gray and white and blinding motion. This is the storm. This is what wild horses face. And this is what they have been facing for 50 million years. But here is the remarkable thing: they do not flee, they do not panic. They do not run blindly into the teeth of the tempest. They face it, they turn their backs to it, they lower their heads, they stand together, and they wait. Let us journey back in time now to the beginning. 50 million years ago, the first horse-like creatures, known as Eohippus, wandered the forests of the Eocene. They were small creatures, about the size of a fox, with arched backs and long tails and toes, not hooves, padded toes that helped them move silently through the soft leaf litter of the forest floor. They ate leaves and soft fruits, and they lived in small groups, hiding from predators in the dense undergrowth. These early horses had no need to face storms. Their world was sheltered, protected by the forest canopy that broke the force of the wind and the rain. But the world changed. The climate grew cooler and drier. The vast forests of the Eocene began to shrink, replaced by open grasslands that stretched to the horizon. The horses of that time, the ones that survived, had to adapt. They grew taller, their legs lengthened, their toes became fewer and fewer, until finally they were gone, replaced by the single solid hoof we know today. This hoof was not just a foot. It was a shock absorber, a suspension system, a foundation upon which the horse could run for miles and miles at incredible speeds. It was a tool for survival on the open plains. And with this adaptation, the horse stepped out of the shadows of the forest and into the vast, open spaces of the grasslands. It was here that they first learned to face storms. Here, with no shelter to hide in, they discovered that the only way to survive the tempest was to stand firm. The same hooves that allowed them to outrun predators also allowed them to anchor themselves against the wind. The same legs that could carry them for 100 miles in a single day also kept them steady when the ground shook with thunder. And the same instincts that had kept them safe in the forests evolved into something new, something that would allow them to not just endure the storm, but to become part of it. Now we must look closely at the horse itself. What is it about this creature that allows it to survive such violence? The answer lies in the details, in the extraordinary engineering of the equine body. Every part of a wild horse, from the tips of its ears to the soles of its hooves, has been shaped by evolution to withstand the forces of nature. Let us begin with the hooves. A horse's hoof is a miracle of natural engineering. It is made of keratin, the same material as our fingernails, but arranged in a complex structure that absorbs shock, provides traction, and supports the enormous weight of the animal. When a wild horse stands facing into the storm, its hooves grip the ground, the edges digging into the soil, creating a stable foundation. The frog, the triangular structure at the center of the hoof, acts as a shock absorber, compressing with each step and expanding to pump blood back up the leg. It is a built-in suspension system that allows the horse to remain steady even when the wind is howling. Now look at the legs. They are long and slender, but they are supported by a complex system of tendons and ligaments that act like springs. They store energy and release it, allowing the horse to move with both power and grace. But more than that, they provide stability. The horse's legs are designed to bear weight for hours, to remain locked in position, to hold steady. This is crucial for storm survival, because when the wind is at its strongest, a horse must not move. Movement means exposure, exposure means injury, injury means death. So they stand, their legs locked, their hooves planted, their bodies angled into the wind. The horse's body itself is a marvel. Its long, arched neck can act as a rudder, aligning the body with the wind to reduce drag. Its powerful chest contains lungs that can take in massive amounts of air, providing the oxygen needed to keep the muscles working even in the chaos of the storm. And its eyes, set on the sides of its head, allow for panoramic vision, so that even when facing into the storm, the horse can see what is happening on all sides, watching for danger, watching for the safety of the herd. The coat of the wild horse is thick and coarse, and it does more than just keep the animal warm. It provides protection, a barrier against the biting rain and the stinging hail. Each hair can move, trapping a layer of air that insulates the horse against cold. When the rain comes, the coat channels it away, keeping the skin dry. And the ears, those extraordinary mobile ears, can rotate independently, listening for the sounds of the herd, listening for the sounds of approaching danger. But perhaps the most remarkable survival adaptation of the wild horse is not physical at all. It is behavioral. It is the thing that sets horses apart from virtually every other animal on the plains. When the storm comes, the horse does not panic. It stands, it waits, it trusts in the wisdom of its ancestors. And that brings us to the herd. because no wild horse survives a storm alone. The horse is a herd animal, and its survival depends on the group. When the first dark clouds appear on the horizon, the herd responds as one. There is a subtle shift in behavior, a quiet alertness that passes from horse to horse like a ripple across a pond. The lead mare, the oldest and wisest horse in the herd, will raise her head, nostrils flaring to catch the changing scent of the air. Her ears will swivel, picking up the distant rumble of thunder, and then, with the smallest of movements, she will signal the herd. This is not a call to panic, it is a call to preparation. The herd will move, not fleeing, but positioning themselves. They will find higher ground if possible, or a place where the wind is deflected, or simply an open area where they can see the storm coming from all directions. The lead mare will position herself not at the front, but within the herd, her experience and her calm presence providing a quiet anchor for the others. Around her, the other horses will arrange themselves in a protective pattern, the youngest in the center, safest from the worst of the wind and rain, the strongest on the outer edges, their bodies forming a shield, and they will stand together. This is one of the most remarkable things about wild horses and storms. They do not run, they do not scatter. They gather together, side by side, forming a living wall against the elements. Their bodies protect each other, reducing the wind chill, shielding the most vulnerable. Their combined weight, the sheer mass of the herd, anchors them against the storm's fury, and their collective vigilance ensures that nothing takes them by surprise. There is a deep, profound wisdom in this behavior. The horses understand on some instinctual level that their best chance of survival is not in fleeing, but in staying together. They have learned, over 50 million years, that the storm will pass. It always passes, and their job is simply to endure until it does. The horse's ability to survive storms is not just physical, it is sensory. The wild horse is equipped with an extraordinary range of senses that allow it to detect and respond to changes in the environment long before humans would even notice. Let us begin with hearing. A horse can hear frequencies from 14 Hz to 25,000 Hz, which means they can hear sounds that are both lower and higher than the human ear can detect. But it is not just the range of hearing that is remarkable. It is the mobility of the ears. Each ear can rotate independently, capturing sounds from different directions, allowing the horse to pinpoint the source of a sound with incredible precision. When the storm is approaching, the horse hears it first. The low rumble of thunder, the subtle change in the wind, the sound of rain falling on distant hills, all of these are detected by those mobile ears long before a human would notice. This early warning gives the herd time to prepare. Now consider the sense of smell. A horse's olfactory system is far more developed than our own. They can detect scents from miles away, including the scent of moisture in the air that signals an approaching storm. As the barometric pressure drops, the air changes, carrying the chemical signature of rain and lightning. The horse's sensitive nostrils, which can open wide to take in massive amounts of air, will detect this change and signal the brain that something is coming. The horse's eyes are perhaps its most extraordinary sensory organ. With eyes on the sides of their heads, horses have a nearly 360-degree field of vision. They can see almost everything around them without moving their heads. This is crucial in a storm, when visibility is reduced and dangers can come from any direction. Their eyes are also adapted for low-light conditions, allowing them to see even when the clouds have darkened the sky to near night. But there is one more sense that is often overlooked, a sense that is perhaps more important than all the others. It is the sense of barometric pressure. Horses can feel changes in atmospheric pressure. They can sense the drop in pressure that accompanies an approaching storm. This is not something they learn. It is something they are born with, a deep, primal sense that connects them to the weather in a way that we cannot fully understand. When the pressure drops, the horse knows. Long before the rain begins to fall, long before the thunder rolls, the horse has already sensed the change and begun to prepare. There is a question that has fascinated scientists and horse lovers for generations. Why do wild horses remain so calm in the face of such terrifying forces? The answer lies in the psychology of the horse, in the way their minds are wired. Horses are prey animals, which means their survival has always depended on being alert, on detecting danger early, and on responding quickly. But it also means that they have evolved a remarkable ability to remain calm in the face of danger, to conserve their energy, to wait for the right moment to act. This is what psychologists call adaptive calm. It is the ability to remain still and quiet even when everything around you is chaos. For a horse, this is not a choice. It is an instinct. When the storm comes, the horse's body releases hormones that help it to stay calm, that suppress the panic response, that allow it to think clearly even in the midst of the tempest. The horse's heart rate may increase, but only slightly. The breathing may deepen but not quicken. The muscles remain relaxed, ready for action but not tense with fear. This is not something that individual horses learn. It is something that is passed down through generations, encoded in their DNA. But there is another factor at work here, a factor that is perhaps even more important than instinct. It is the presence of the herd. When a horse is surrounded by its herd mates, it feels safe. The collective calm of the group reinforces the individual's calm. There is a feedback loop, a quiet, steady signal that passes from horse to horse, reminding each of them that they are not alone, that they are part of something bigger than themselves, that together they can survive anything. This is why horses that are isolated, horses that are separated from the herd, often panic in storms. Without the calming presence of their companions, they lose that sense of safety, and their instincts, honed for millions of years, can work against them. But in the herd there is peace, there is trust, there is the deep, unshakable knowledge that they will face the storm together and emerge together on the other side. And now let us return to the storm. The wind has begun to howl, a deep, resonant sound that seems to come from the very earth itself. The rain has started, not falling but blowing sideways, driven by the fury of the gale. Lightning streaks across the sky, followed almost instantly by a crack of thunder so loud it seems to shake the world. The horses stand in formation, their backs to the wind, their heads lowered. Their eyes are half closed, protected from the stinging rain by their thick lashes and brows. Their ears flick backwards and forwards, listening for any change in the sound of the storm, listening for the safety of the herd. The youngest horses, the foals, are at the center of the group, their bodies protected by the larger, older horses around them. They press close to their mothers, drawing comfort from the familiar warmth, from the steady beat of their mother's heart. The lead mare stands near the center, her head raised slightly above the others, her eyes scanning the horizon, waiting. Every few minutes, she will shift her position, checking the wind, checking the herd, making sure everyone is where they should be. And then, the worst of the storm arrives. The wind reaches its peak, 100 miles per hour or more, roaring across the plains with the force of a hurricane. The rain becomes a solid wall of water, so heavy that the horses can barely breathe. The ground shakes with the force of the thunder, and the lightning is constant, a flickering strobe of white and purple that makes the world seem unreal. But the horses stand. They do not move, they do not run, they simply endure. And in this moment there is a strange and beautiful peace. The storm is so violent, so all-encompassing that there is nothing else in the world but this: the wind, the rain, the thunder, and the herd. For the horses, there is no past and no future. There is only now. Only this moment, only the storm and their place within it. And at the heart of this moment is the lead mare. The lead mare is the oldest, the wisest, the most experienced horse in the herd. She has weathered more storms than any of the others, has seen more lightning, felt more wind, heard more thunder. She remembers the storms of her youth, the storms that tested her and shaped her, that taught her the lessons she now passes on to the rest of the herd. But it is not just experience that makes her the leader. It is something deeper. It is an instinct, a deep primal understanding of what it means to be a horse. She knows when to move and when to stand. She knows when to seek shelter and when to remain in the open. She knows the signs of a storm that will pass quickly and a storm that will linger. She knows where the safest ground is and where the lightning is most likely to strike. And above all, she knows how to read the herd. She can sense the subtle signs of stress, the slight shift in posture, the flicker of fear in the eyes. And when she sees these signs, she responds, not with words but with presence. She stands a little closer. She lowers her head a little more. She projects a calm that is almost tangible. The lead mare, like all horses, communicates through body language. A flick of the ear, a turn of the head, a shift in weight. These are the language of the horse, a language that is subtle and rich and full of meaning. In the storm, this language becomes more important than ever. A lead mare will use these signals to guide the herd, to reassure them, to keep them together. She will touch the foals with her nose, a gentle nudge that says, "You are safe." She will stand close to the nervous, her presence a physical reminder that she is there, that she will protect them. And she will lead by example, her calmness a model that the others will follow. The bond between the lead mare and her herd is one of the most powerful forces in the natural world. It is a bond forged in the crucible of survival, tested by storms and droughts and predators, strengthened by years of shared experience. It is a bond that transcends words, that reaches into the deepest parts of the horse's soul. And it is this bond that allows the herd to survive the storm. And then, as all storms must, the storm begins to pass, the wind drops, the rain becomes lighter, softer, the thunder becomes distant, a low grumble on the horizon. The lightning retreats to the clouds, a faint flicker that is more a memory than a threat. The sky begins to brighten, and the horses, who have stood for hours in the face of the tempest, begin to stir. It is not a sudden movement, not a frantic rush to freedom. It is a slow, gentle unfolding, like the opening of a flower after a long night. The lead mare raises her head. She shakes off the water, a spray of droplets that catches the first ray of sunlight. She looks around the herd, counting, confirming that everyone is safe. And then she takes a step, and then another, and the herd follows. They walk slowly across the wet grass, their hooves making soft, squelching sounds in the mud. They are tired, but they are alive. They are wet, but they are warm. They are hungry, but they are safe. And there is a sense of relief, a sense of release, a sense of gratitude that is almost palpable. The horses will graze now, eating the grass that has been washed clean by the rain. They will rest, sleeping in the sun that has emerged from behind the clouds. They will groom each other, restoring the bonds that have been tested by the storm, and they will recover. In a few days, there will be no sign that the storm ever happened. The grass will be green, the sky will be blue. And the horses will be as they were before, wild and free and strong. But they will carry something with them, something that has been strengthened by the storm. They will carry the memory of the tempest and the knowledge that they survived. They will carry the bond of the herd, the deep connection that was forged in the face of danger. And they will carry the wisdom of the lead mare, the ancient wisdom that says the storm will always pass, that the sun will always rise, that the herd will always endure. Behind this beautiful picture of survival, there is science. There is biology and physics and meteorology, all working together to explain how wild horses do what they do. Let us look at the physics of the storm. A 50-mile-per-hour wind exerts a pressure of about 1.3 pounds per square foot. A 100-mile-per-hour wind exerts a pressure of about 5.2 pounds per square foot. When you multiply that pressure by the surface area of a horse, you get a force that can push the animal sideways, destabilizing it, making it hard to keep its balance. But the horse is designed for this. Its legs are positioned under its body in a way that provides a stable base. Its center of gravity is low. Its four-point stance is far more stable than the two-point stance of a human. And its ability to lean into the wind, to angle its body to reduce its surface area, allows it to minimize the force of the wind. Now let us look at the biology. The horse's heart rate can slow down during a storm, a phenomenon known as the dive reflex. This is a survival mechanism that allows the horse to conserve energy and oxygen when it is under stress. The horse's respiratory system is also remarkable. It is designed to take in large volumes of air, to oxygenate the blood efficiently, and to maintain that oxygenation even when breathing is difficult. This is why horses can run for miles without fatigue, and it is also why they can stand in the storm without struggling for breath. The horse's coat is another survival tool. It consists of two layers, a coarse outer layer that repels water and a soft inner layer that traps air for insulation. When the horse gets wet, the inner layer remains dry, keeping the animal warm even in the most driving rain. But perhaps the most remarkable scientific fact about horses and storms is their ability to sense barometric pressure. Research has shown that horses can detect pressure drops that are so small that they are imperceptible to humans. This allows them to predict storms long before they arrive, giving them time to find shelter or to prepare for the coming tempest. The mechanism behind this is not fully understood, but it is believed to involve the inner ear, which also controls balance, and the vagus nerve, which links the brain to the body's internal organs. It is a reminder that horses are not just animals. They are living instruments, finely tuned by millions of years of evolution to survive in a world that is often hostile and unpredictable. And now, as we begin to draw this story to a close, we might ask ourselves, what does it all mean? What is the deeper significance of this story of horses and storms? Perhaps it is a lesson in patience. In a world that demands instant results, that celebrates speed and urgency, The wild horse reminds us that sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. Sometimes the wisest course is to wait, to endure, to trust in the process. Perhaps it is a lesson in community. The horse does not survive the storm alone. It survives because it is part of a herd, because it is willing to stand with others, to protect and be protected, to share the burden of survival. There is a profound lesson in this, a lesson about our own lives, about the importance of connection and community in the face of life's storms. Perhaps it is a lesson in trust. The horse trusts in its instincts. It trusts in the lead mare. It trusts in the herd. It trusts that the storm will pass, that the sun will rise, that things will be okay. This is not a blind trust. It is a trust that has been earned through millions of years of survival, a trust that is grounded in experience and wisdom. And perhaps it is a lesson in acceptance. The horse does not fight the storm. It does not rage against the wind or curse the rain. It accepts the storm as part of life, as something that must be endured. And in that acceptance, there is a kind of peace, a peace that is deeper than any calm, a peace that comes from knowing that you are part of something bigger than yourself. And so, as the sun sets on the plains and the herd settles in for the night, we come to the end of our story. We have journeyed together through the storm, through the science and the history and the deep, quiet wisdom of the wild horse. We have seen how these magnificent creatures have survived the tempests of the ages, how they have stood firm in the face of lightning and wind and rain. We have learned about the herd and the lead mare and the ancient instincts that guide them. We have felt the peace that comes from acceptance, the strength that comes from community, the patience that comes from trust. And now, as the darkness falls and the stars emerge, we can close our eyes with the knowledge that somewhere out there, on the vast plains of this world, a herd of wild horses is sleeping peacefully, their bodies warm, their minds at rest, their dreams filled with the memory of the storm they survived. They know something that we can all learn, a simple truth that has been passed down through the ages. The storm will always pass. The wind will always die down. The sun will always rise again. And the herd will always endure. Sleep well and know that you are part of this great, beautiful story. Good night.